We're working. We're in the lab, and we're gonna make sure this happens as soon as possible.
Welcome to an episode of the Sports Genes Into the Lab podcast, where sports analysts and experts dissect the latest news from the NBA and NFL, giving you a unique view on some of the hottest topics around your favorite teams. From the fresh field smells of the NFL to the hardwood courts of the NBA, and possibly your comfy couch for your fantasy football team. Let's see what kind of news the lab is working with today. Here's your host from the Sports Analytics headquarters in San Antonio, Texas, Ernest Silva.
We are back. I am excited, glad to be joined here with Kenny Cotterell, my co-host for this season. Kenny, how's it going, man?
I'm all right. Our province is dealing with some pretty horrendous wildfires in the north, so it's causing a bit of air quality issues in this area. So prayers to everyone that's dealing with that up north. Hopefully things kind of get situated there. We could really use some rain here and in Alberta, but other than that, I'm in good spirits so long as the Celtics, as you can tell from my little headline there, just got to score one more point with 1 minute to go. So,
yep, I'm watching it too with you here. One more point at the 27.5 mark couldn't come soon enough for you as they turned the ball over. Oh, there's a turnover by the Celtics. No, did it hit?
I'm ahead of the broadcast.
Okay, all right. Well, ITL's back. We're going to talk basketball today. We're going hoops. We're going full hoops. Last time you saw us, we were covering the NFL draft. Bijan Watch was happening day one. We are now NBA draft lottery watch, which already happened. And for those of you sleeping under a rock, it was a doozy. A lot of letdowns, a lot of surprises. We're going to talk a little bit about the draft and all the teams that actually benefited from it. Kenny's not worried about the draft because his team's still dancing right now. Not like I told him before the Lakers were the team to beat with all them stars. He's hyped up over there. Powered by the wonderful blue-collar media group BCMG, sticking with us even through the baby watch. And if you haven't noticed, no baby yet. We have not posted anything. Trey Watch is next week. Next week is a projected timeline. Many have said from the 20th to the 31st. People have picked days. There's bets going on. So I'm very excited for his arrival. We got his outfit picked out. Kenny, you would love it. It says, I think it has something like the best draft pick, and it's a Rockets logo on it. Like, it's beautiful. I am absolutely ecstatic.
Of course it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then he has a rowdy Lovey coming. So it's you're just getting him indoctrined with all of the fan base. All right. Well, today's going to be a doozy. All right. We are going to talk NBA. We're going to talk a lot of Rockets basketball. And so let's jump right into it. Let's start with the playoffs. That's where you're at, Kenny. That's where my mind's at. And of course, it's the COVID NBA conference finals all over again. This is the same matchups from the 2020 conference finals back when COVID hit. So the teams are very different. I think they set the 88% turnover rate for the four teams playing all over again in the conference final, which is nuts, right? That's nuts. Let's talk your series though. The Denver Nuggets, their path here to the Lakers, they're playing. They take the lead 1-0 in the first one, but as a Lakers fan, you're probably not upset with that result. You were down 21 in the second half, and you came back and made it a game. You were within 2, and then just couldn't seal the deal. So talk to me a little bit about this game. Talk to me about what your thoughts are about the Lakers coming up just a tad short.
I don't know if anyone expected us to win last night. I think you see it in the betting lines. It was -6.5 for Denver.
Yeah.
You do have to get adjusted to Denver, just given the altitude and everything. So honestly, they just got bull rushed right out of the gate. And it's what Denver's kind of done to Phoenix in the previous round and what they did in the first round of Minnesota as well. They want to play fast. The Lakers play at one of the slowest paces, if not the slowest pace in the entire league this year. If they can get Denver to play their game, then the Lakers will win this series. It's just can you take care of the ball well enough? Can you rebound well enough? Like Jokic had 10 rebounds in the first quarter. and it was still time left in the first quarter when he got there. He finished with like 23 rebounds. So can you keep him in check? You're never going to shut down a superstar. That's one of the phrases that I hate is, well, you got to shut down LeBron. You got to shut down Jokic. You limit them. You make things tougher. Now, Jamal Murray, he was great yesterday, played his player prop total. That's how much I thought he was going to have a great first game. And Lakers, at the end of the day, they have to steal one. If you take care of business at home and you steal one on the road, then you're going to win the series at the end of the day. I'm still not worried about them long-term in this series. If they fall behind 2-0, then I'll start to be concerned. But it's a tough place to win. They got out to a great start. Lakers almost came back and won that game. And once they switched Hachimura onto Jokic, he had some issues in that fourth quarter. So we'll see. Did they make the right adjustments? Darvin Ham's done a pretty good job of that throughout the playoffs. And if they can do that, then I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I was about to talk about that Darvin Ham point. I thought the transition of Rui onto Jokic was perfect and helped you guys defensively. The half-court defense was godly towards the end of the third and all of the fourth. Like, I was just shocked. It's like, who is this team? This Lakers team is nuts. And as the comeback kept roaring and roaring and roaring, I was like, they're going to end up stealing this damn game. And this is going to be a 5-game series. They're going to end up winning like one game. Nuggets are it's going to be a shock. But no, it was a fantastic game. I love that LeBron and especially AD, right? They show out, right? And you needed to see that from AD at a high level, at a high atmosphere, in a big game one. So if I am the Los Angeles Lakers, or I'm a Lakers fan, I'm not worried whatsoever. Like, this is exactly what you probably wanted. You wanted to get in there. You wanted Denver to get their win, get that out of the way. You're going to come and punch them in the mouth in game 2. And Denver, you also get what you want, right? You make the home stand, and then you're going to walk away. You probably don't feel as good blowing that lead, but you're glad to be up 1-0, like Jokic said at the end of the game, right? It's not a matter of you win by 20, you win by 2, you win.
Yep.
You just need 4 of those. So
the thing that concerns me mainly around the AD point is anytime he's had an explosive game in the playoffs, he's followed it up with a pretty bad performance. You look at Memphis. Here's some of his splits. He had 31 in game 3 with Memphis. Game 4, 12 points. Then he goes out game 5. He has 31. Then he has 16 the next. Then he has 30 on Golden State. Then he follows it up with 11. And then you look at this past game, he gets 40. He has to give them consistently 25 points.
Right.
At the very least, like if you're having an off day, you got to figure out a way to gut through it, and AD can disappear at times because the Lakers got production from other guys yesterday. Rui was really good. Reeves was good. LeBron was playing at a high level. So they're going to get those bench contributions. They've been getting it all series long. It's why no one liked the Lakers early on, because they didn't have these guys. They make all these deadline moves, and now they're just fine come playoff time. So AD's got to be solid. I'm not worried about LeBron. I'm actually not worried about Austin Reeves. I've kind of turned into an Austin Reeves Stan account when it comes to Twitter. I've made a lot of tweets about the fact that both Austin and Reeves is in consideration for my firstborn son's name. So
I know, yeah.
We'll see. I mean, hey, if he goes all the way to the championship, it's going to be tough for me to have that conversation with my wife and say, hey, look, Reeves is on the table. Might be a middle name, but like it's on the table at that point. It's up there with great names like Dak and Ezekiel and all the great names that we have. Ernest wasn't in consideration, probably won't be, but you know, at the end of the day, great Texas names.
There you go. Ernest is definitely in there. Ernesto to be.
Ernesto, that's why. Sorry, I didn't think to have that one.
I thought you had that on there. Thanks for clearing that up. The other side of the bracket, Heat have surprisingly been chopping up the bit. Last time we did NBA analysis, we probably looked foolish because we said they'd probably be swept. And then the Celtics have taken care of business and came back from behind against the Sixers to meet them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Right now, they're deadlocked at 32 in the second, according to my broadcast. It looks like the Celtics are now up 2. Kenny, in this matchup, you got to lean heavy with the talent being with Boston, but Jimmy Buckets has been Jimmy Buckets, and Kyle Lowry has looked like the Kyle Lowry of old. Not the old Kyle Lowry, but the older Kyle Lowry who you love to watch coming out from college and playing with spunk. Like right now, he just hit back-to-back threes. Just nuts. Okay, so Kenny, from your analysis, who do you give the upper edge, the upper hand here, and who has the edge in this series?
So, I mean, before we get into that, we got to give a show plug to Competitive Hedge Podcast because this morning the player prop of the day was Kyle Lowry over 1.5 threes today at -139. A second quarter cash. I mean, pretty ideal. Wow. We also had the Celtics first quarter. We were 2-0 already on the day. So we're a clean sweep 4-0 today for the show. No big deal. We don't know what we're talking about. We're just very good gamblers right now. Now, back to the series part of this. Butler has been special on this playoff run, but so is Bam. People, they want Bam to be this guy that's going to go out and be Anthony Davis on the offensive end. And quite frankly, he doesn't have that in his game. He's not a great mid-range guy like AD is, but what he does bring is he's an even better defender than AD for me. I think he's special when it comes to there. But what's been great for Miami is they've just been getting contributions from other guys. Like Kevin Love was a great deadline pickup.
Yeah.
Like Cleveland was like, we don't want him. Well, they sure as hell could have used him when they lost to the Knicks in a very quick series. You've got guys like Caleb Martin, who's got 5 points already tonight. You've got Cody Zeller. Maybe you get a night from Duncan Robinson, despite the fact that's one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Maybe he gives you a night where he hits 4 or 5 threes. So Miami's getting those contributions. You've got Strus in the lineup, who's been good, and Gabe Vincent. They kind of trade games as to who's being productive, but Butler's leading the way. He's doing it again tonight. He's 12-2-2 as we're at this point of the show. So that's been the key for Miami. This is very much a Spoelstra-type team. Ever since LeBron has left that franchise, it's been a lot of we need to go 7, 8, 9 guys deep. We'll have that superstar guy because Jimmy Butler's a superstar, and he proved that when he dropped 57 on Milwaukee. Jimmy's built different. Some are calling him Himmy throughout this entire run. But he's just been really solid. He's got contributions from other guys, and this is where you look at some of the teams that are eliminated, whether that be the Phoenix Suns, who gave up their entire bench to get Kevin Durant. And then when they got to the playoffs, you had 2 guys that could score 70 and no one else was contributing. You look at Milwaukee, their bench depth really wasn't there throughout their playoff run. The Knicks outside of Brunson weren't getting a lot of bench production either. All these teams that are left have bench production coming in. Denver would probably be the worst when you have Jokic having 34, 23,
he covers
and
35% of the stat sheet.
He kind of deals with things okay on that end. So I think Miami's in a good spot. I wouldn't bet them to win this series outright. I do think that at a certain point the talent might get caught up. That being said, I think this is a 7-game series. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Celtics, they may win game 1. I think the Heat have the mentality to steal a road game. And that's the key for this series because Miami's not going to win everyone in Miami. I just don't see that as a real possibility with how much talent Boston has in Tatum and Brown. But they can win a game in Boston. They can give one up in Miami, and then we'll see what happens once it comes down to a 7th game because it's what we saw last year too.
I think for me, it comes down to health, right? As long as everybody saves playing for Miami, I got to admit, it's going to be tough to beat them in a 7-game series the way they've been playing. And Boston has been very up and down. Like, even if you're watching this game, you're not completely sold that this Boston team can win this series outright. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous to me. So let's do predictions before we move on to NBA headlines. Kenny, predictions on the West.
I believe that the Lakers are going to win in 6 games.
Lakers in 6.
I think that they steal game 2. They go home. They take care of business for one of those games. I actually think we're going to see 2-2 heading into game 5. Take one on the road, finish it at home in 6.
All right. I have Lakers in 6 as well.
Okay.
I should have said mine first. I'd seem authentic. But Lakers in 6 is my pick for similar reasons, but I think we're going to get a LeBron James game. I think we already had the AD game, but they lost that. I'm hoping there's another AD game in there, and I think that's 2 guaranteed wins. And then I think you have that wonderful Austin Reeves game. And as I just watched Duncan Robinson go off the back of Bam Adebayo's head and then try to take a 3. But yeah, I think that ends up being a 6-game series for the Lakers. I'll go first on the East. I'm going to take Heat in 6. I think the Heat end up going back to the finals, and Boston comes up short. I think there's going to be some changes in Boston next year because of it. But I like the Heat in 6. I think the best player on the court is Jimmy Butler, and I go with the best player on the court and how they're playing. Even with Tatum dropping 50, I think Jimmy Butler right now is a better all-around player. Kenny, Eastern Conference predictions.
I find it very hard to believe that Boston's going to lose at home in 7. I really do. I don't think Miami's going to close it out in 6. I'd be very shocked if it went that short with Miami winning it, but I'll stick with Boston in 7. I think once you get to the Garden, I think Tatum or Brown could have another special performance like we saw against Philly, but the difference is Miami's not going to fold like a cheap lawn chair like Philly did.
Reg Huggins in the comments. Didn't know we were live tonight, and so I'm glad to see him. Heat in 6. Come on now. I got to go with the team that's shooting the ball and playing defense better. Right now it's Miami. I will say this, Reg. I am partial to a Tomball kid, right? Jimmy's from Houston. So I got to go with that. All right. So if you're not in the know, there are some headlines you should. So as far as headlines go, we're going to run down some of the biggest headlines and give our debates and takes about what it is. First, start off with the beard himself. James Harden's giving up that option. He's taking the player option. He's testing free agency. Kenny, this is fresh off the press. There's a lot of stuff breaking in the last 2-3 hours about Harden's future aspirations and teams interested. Reg says, I understand that. You get it. You get that Texas feel, Reg. I know you're a Boston fan. Good luck to your Celtics. All right, James Harden testing free agency, and I got our producer coming into studio. Londo has arrived, so excited about that. Let's talk about it, Kenny. James Harden been linked to a couple of teams now, staying in Philly, definitely one of those. He had a good run there. He likes the atmosphere. Of course, Doc is gone, so who knows how that's going to go. We can talk about that matchup and pairing that best fits Harden. Phoenix now being rumored to be interested in James Harden and bringing him to Phoenix. I don't think that means that CP3 stays. I think that means that he would be likely out the door. We could talk CP3 in a minute. And then Houston. And from the recent ESPN showings and from Reg Huggins himself, he sent me the link. There is a max offer on the table for James Harden to return to Houston. So with all that being said, Kenny, is there an outside place that hasn't been mentioned yet you see Harden going to, or do you think he's just going back to Philly?
I don't know how he goes back to Philly.
I don't either.
Tobias Harris is owed $39 million next year. And I'm not going to say that no contract is undumpable, because Russell Westbrook got dumped at the deadline this year. And I truly thought that there was no way that we were getting out from under that contract. But that's $39 million for Tobias Harris. So I don't know how the money makes sense given what Harden is saying around, I want a long-term deal. Like,
now, a 4-year deal, right? He wants a 4-year max. But he took a $15 million pay cut just for this season.
And that's what I mean. He's not going to take a pay cut long-term.
Right.
And what are you doing? It would be stupid for Harden to sign another short-term extension at 32 or 33 years old, because then you come back at 34. If you have a down year, they're not going to give you a max. So I understand his rationale of, look, I'm 33. I need my max money now because by the time that contract expires, I'm 37, and I don't see Harden playing until he's 40. So
no. And he's probably chasing a ring at that point if he hasn't won it by then. So
Phoenix is interesting because I think they have the opportunity to dump Chris Paul. To be honest, I actually think the Lakers will probably push for Chris Paul. And it's just because that's a LeBron type thing to do of, hey, bud, like, I want to win you a championship. He did it for Melo. He did it for Dwight. I feel like I'm just going to put that in the air because I know it's going to be all over.
How do y'all afford Chris Paul, though?
They're going to figure out a way.
You need help. You would need help. You would need him to opt in a trade.
We 100% would need help in order to do that. But it still feels like, even if Chris Paul, I don't know. I think that's his preferred destination. I will say, D'Angelo Russell, we get $31 million off the books at the end of this.
That is true. You still need a little more. I think you need 12 more mil to afford CP3 if he opts in.
Well, we're losing Lonnie Walker, Rui, Schroeder, Brown, and Reeves, but Reeves wants money.
Reeves will be back. You can't get rid of Reeves.
But it also depends on what he's going to get offered. Because after this playoff run, we're going to try and offer him like 4 years, 60. Is there a team out there that wants Austin Reeves for more than 4 years?
The Knicks. The Knicks will offer him like 488 or something stupid.
But there will be a team that will put that bid in and kind of force the Lakers' hand. So I do agree that that's going to be an issue. But if we're talking Harden-wise, I think Phoenix is a realistic spot, but they'll have to move Ayton and Chris Paul in order to make it happen.
So I have the same feelings on CP3 and Ayton as you do with Harden and Philly. Like, how do you bring back CP3 and Ayton after just another disappointment and Ayton looking like absolute dog crap?
Well, the issue is you have to dump Landry Shamet too, because even having him for a couple more years of 10 and 11 million, what the hell did Landry Shamet do this year that made you think, oh yeah, like I want to bring that guy back? Pretty much everyone else that they have outside of Cameron Payne and all the guys that we've mentioned are off the books.
Absolutely. You're going to have a total revamp like the Lakers did.
So you could dump Chris Paul and Shamet and probably afford to keep Ayton and bring in Harden if he's willing.
Does the Harden KD pairing work? Like, I think we've seen it doesn't work. Why do it?
It doesn't work because Harden's going to want to dribble, and Booker is such a pure scorer, and so is KD, that they really need a guy that is strictly going to distribute. Like, he has no aspirations to score.
So Reg is saying, are we saying CP3 and Ayton for Harden? No. We're talking specifically James Harden. So let's just make this point very clear.
Also, Chris Paul's contract for next year and the following year is not fully guaranteed as well.
Okay, well that's more intriguing. We're saying that Phoenix has been linked to wanting Harden, so in order for them to make room, how do they get enough cap to get Harden? And that seems to be the conversation right now. So no, nobody is saying Phoenix and Philly have a deal or are going to have a deal on the table. I think what we're wanting to say is if Harden and KD and oh my gosh, Booker are I knew it wasn't Dylan Brooks. Are trying to form a big three in Phoenix. That would be a hurdle to jump, and Ayton would have to lend.
I don't think that Phoenix also. What kind of gets lost in the shuffle about them getting eliminated so early in the playoffs is that KD and Booker only really played like less than a dozen games together entering the playoffs. I think you let them run it back for a season, and they're going to figure out how to coexist a little bit better together. But that being said, even if they are better together, #VCMG, then Ayton and Paul, if you dump them for Harden, are they a better team adding James Harden?
See that so fantastic segue, because we're gonna end the James Harden speak right after this last question brought to you. Button, just kidding, no. But it was a great question. Can I ask what the true value does Harden truly have as a player? I was gonna say truly one more time, but okay. So what is the value Harden brings as a player? 33 years old, 4 years max is what he wants. Kenny, is he? I think he kind of proved a little bit. There's still something left in the tank. Is he a max player, and is he an all-star point guard in the NBA right now?
He's an all-star on a bad team. If he's playing with other stars, I just don't think that he's ever going to be an all-star again. Because we saw it with Embiid. We saw it with him this year, and he'll get lost in the shuffle. If he goes to Phoenix, first of all, there's no way that he's going to be an all-star. They're not going to have 3 all-stars all coming out of Phoenix. If Booker's going to average 30 and KD's going to average 30, then where the hell does Harden fit into that? He's going to be like 29 and 8. Is that good enough in the West to be an all-star? Probably not. I think James has to make a decision. He has to make a decision around, am I willing to take the pay cut in order to actually win a championship? Or am I going to be the smart businessman and I'm going to go get paid 4 years, 160, 180, whatever it is, could even get more than that probably from a team. And do I just go take the bag? Is that what I want at this juncture of my career? Because if he goes back to Philly, he's not an all-star, but he could win a championship. If he goes to Phoenix, not an all-star, could win a championship. If he goes to Houston, I mean, he'll put up easy numbers. But even if he leads the league in assists, Reg, I still don't think that's enough in the East or in the West to be an all-star. Look at all the other guards that he's going to have to compete against. The saving grace for him would be that John Morant, who we'll talk about in a little bit, isn't going to be an all-star next year. So, but you're still competing with guys like Steph, guys like Luka, who knows where Kyrie goes. Maybe he stays in the West and he's an all-star next year. Like, there's a lot of names as you start going down that list. Lillard is a name. Shea is a name. There's a lot of good guards. So, and Eastern Conference-wise, it doesn't get that much easier out there.
I think for me, and this is what makes Houston so enticing, right? If you're going to go back to where you were made and they are offering a 4-year max for you, and you have all these young players and you get in Houston stocks up this offseason with shooters, then maybe it's enticing. Maybe you go back to Houston, you run it back.
He could change his legacy to an extent.
Yeah,
he's not going to be a champion at the end of the day. But if he was the guy that made Jabari Smith Jr. better, that made Jalen Green better, that made Kevin Porter Jr. better, he could change his trajectory. He'll never be the greatest Rocket of all time, but he could definitely.
But you're talking about a 4-year window now, and with all these young potential superstars. I mean, you could have a Celtic-like run and maybe make a run in a couple of years and maybe get yourself a ship in Houston. Like,
but he wouldn't be the best player on a championship team at that point. He will have regressed, and then it would be other guys would have taken over that spot. But when you start going down the list of other teams, like if he's thinking, I want to win a championship, Bucks don't want him, Celtics don't want him, Sixers, well, to be determined. Cleveland doesn't want him. Knicks, maybe the Knicks want him because they're going to dump Julius, but I don't think that Brunson and Harden works. I really don't. Brooklyn's rebuilding. Atlanta doesn't want him. Miami doesn't want him. And then you start going to the West of teams that are actually contenders. Memphis probably doesn't want him. I can't imagine Jokic wants him in Denver.
Toronto
the Kings
could
won't want him.
I mentioned them.
Toronto?
Uh-huh.
I don't think so.
Why not? But, you're going to lose Fred VanVleet.
Actually, I want to make that a segment later on because I actually think I figured out how to fix the Toronto Raptors.
Ooh, that's fun.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're going down the West.
But you keep going down that list. Minnesota, he's not going to. The only way that it works in Minnesota is if you dump Gobert or Towns.
Breaking news by Luke.
And you decide that well, actually, though, like that's a name that's getting thrown out there, which is pretty ridiculous. But Minnesota, if you had Edwards, Harden, and Towns or Gobert, is that good enough to win the West?
No.
Well, Edwards is still getting better, keeping in mind. And Edwards is an off-the-ball guy. So I think, but is James Harden prepared to go to the strip clubs of Minnesota?
No.
I can't imagine that.
It's a different tier.
I can't imagine that's an ideal location for that sort of debauchery.
No, it's Houston or bust. I mean, he has his restaurant there. He has his soccer franchise there. He has his life.
Yeah,
there.
We'll talk about those instead, not the other activities.
Let's move on. We could talk James Harden all day. The next topic is CP3 on the move. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the places thrown around for CP3 already with the Harden news, with Phoenix trying to change things up, getting rid of probably 90% of their roster. Okay, CP3 goes elsewhere. I heard of an intriguing place. I heard if CP3 gets bought out, the Spurs would be a likely destination for him, given the Wemby pick is now going there. And I thought that's intriguing. CP3 and Wemby now going to San Antonio. San Antonio already has Sochan and their Team USA Pro. I don't know why names are escaping me. It's a bit. I've been
why
away too
would
long.
he want to go there?
Maybe he wants a ring. Maybe he thinks he wins with that.
But he's not going to be around long enough to win a ring in San Antonio.
And Reg likes it.
There's no way that him going and playing with just Wemby and Popovich, who knows how many more years he's actually.
I got the name. Keldon Johnson's not a bad player.
So Keldon Johnson, Chris Paul, and Victor Wembanyama is winning a championship.
I'm just saying that's pieces, and we haven't even got. If they don't have to pay for CP3, they can afford a max player still.
Okay, but what max player is going to San Antonio?
Chris Middleton would be somebody that comes up to mind.
Are we considering Chris Middleton a max caliber player? And also,
Spurs,
by the way, Chris Paul's 38.
But he still plays at a high level. It's not like he's garbage on the.
Are you kidding me? He may do a few things on the offensive end. He is a defensive liability now.
When I say he's playing at a high level, I mean playoff starting point guard basketball. I can't name 7 better than him right now.
7 better point guards?
to lead a playoff contender. Yeah, in the West. We're in the West. San Antonio's in the West.
If we're talking point guards in the West.
Yes, because that's essentially where San Antonio plays.
I think Jamal Murray plays at a higher level than him right now.
That's one.
I think that Ja Morant does.
He's not really playing, though, anymore.
Okay, but like if we're actually going down names.
I'll give you two.
Ja Morant, De'Aaron Fox.
3, I guess. You think De'Aaron Fox is a better point guard?
100%.
Okay,
At this juncture
3.
right
I'll
now.
give you 3 for right now.
Steph Curry.
I mean, I guess. We can argue that one for.
Shai Gilgeous.
That's a shooting guard. Josh Giddey is the point guard there.
I'd take Josh Giddey right now.
Fuck no. That's a crazy. I'm not putting
Okay, anyways,
4.
Lillard.
Lillard, he doesn't lead playoff teams.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Okay, I'll give you 5. Okay, you got 5.
Luka Doncic.
Okay, 6.
Well, there's 6.
I said 7.
You said you changed it to 7.
I couldn't name 7 better ones.
I think that
you can't name another one. That's the problem. So he still is a top level point guard.
Being 7th in the West means that you're in the mid tier.
But okay, here, hold on. I like that you said that. I knew you were going to go there because Wembanyama is supposed to be special.
But
you're talking about with somebody
when
who
LeBron was special, because this is what we're comparing it to. How long did it take to really consider Cleveland as a contender?
2 years.
2?
In 05, weren't they in the finals?
They didn't make the NBA Finals until 2007.
Yeah, you see, I know my sports. You see, but 05, they were a good basketball team. They had Ilgauskas, they had Daniel Gibson.
Okay, but
LeBron
even if
James.
we're talking 2 years, by that juncture, Chris Paul's 40.
No, you're right. That's what I'm saying. If you're saying San Antonio, just hear me out. If you're saying San Antonio, I have a 38-year-old CP3 who I believe is playing at a top 5 Western Conference point guard level. I'm telling you right now. You've got 3 forwards in Johnson. I think Vasher is there, and Sochan, and then you bring in a Middleton, and you have Wembanyama. What you have a solid 7-piece, not even counting Collins, who I think was very fine for them last year. You have an 8-man rotation. You really just got to fill it up with some shooters, and San Antonio has something, and you're not really kind of saying they're garbage. They're actually a pretty good team.
I think we've already established, though, that he wants to win a championship, and I don't think that he's looking to take a chance that the Spurs, like, the only way that he signs there this offseason is they would have to get the max guy first. And I don't think that Chris Middleton's pushing you to the top of any conference. So even if it's Middleton, Wembanyama, and Sochan and Keldon Johnson, that's a playoff team in the West, maybe.
So you think Kyrie CP3 would move the needle more?
You think Kyrie would go to the Spurs?
I'm just saying we didn't count him as a point guard in your list, so I'm guessing you have him as a shooting guard. You took Luka, so I'm going to give you the win there, but you're going to take the loss here. So Kyrie goes and plays for San
Kyrie's
Antonio.
only not playing point guard because you're not going to put him at point over Luka. Like, there's levels to it.
I think my main thing for all of this is that you can go so many different directions with this. I could even probably make a case that Harden and CP3 reunite in San Antonio, and I'm not going to even do that. But let's just say,
but you know how much I hate Chris Paul, and I still believe he's going to be a Laker.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
He could even be a Clipper. If we're talking buyout scenario, I don't see any scenario where LeBron is the first person calling.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, trust me, I think that him going to San Antonio would be great, especially for Victor and some of these other guys. But
this is the last. This is the last year you have LeBron, right? This upcoming year.
I think so. Yeah. So he'll sign a 1 year
because then Bronny comes back. He goes into the draft, and then now you get Bronny and Bron somewhere.
USC goes,
yeah, could be a one and done. So yeah, okay.
So maybe San Antonio drafts Bronny, then you go Bronny, Chris Paul joins later. You add LeBron and you add Victor. That's
it.
That's
it's
the
in
process.
the cards. And Wembanyama gets Robin.
The segment was meant to be fix the Raptors, turned into the fix the Spurs.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, let's move on. Kyrie Irving. Where? Dang it, we didn't plan this one right.
Nowhere.
where does Kyrie Irving play basketball next year? Dallas seems to think it's Dallas, but man, that was atrocious to end the season.
Why would Dallas want him?
I have no clue.
I think Cuban is desperate if that's the road. If that's the route that they are really going to go of bringing back. And again, we're going to talk about a 20-game stretch, but it was a very bad 20-game stretch. What I would prefer to see happen if I'm Dallas, because that's where I would want Chris Middleton to go. If I'm talking about the best case for Chris Middleton, if it's not Milwaukee again, I think it's Dallas.
That's interesting. That's intriguing too.
Because he doesn't need the ball a ton to be effective. But he's a guy where Luka can take a break and then you can just let Middleton run the offense for 4 or 5 minutes and you don't really lose a lot. And he doesn't have to be the number one. Middleton will always be a number 2 on a championship team. So I think that that's a great fit for Luka. Whether Dallas decides, hey, we're just going to sign Kyrie because he's a bigger name or not, I really think he should be there.
Just a peek into the next topic. So just so everybody knows. Yeah, so just so everybody knows. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But Kyrie Irving himself, as far as fit goes, if the Clippers decide to gut things, I think that would be a good fit to go LA.
Who's the only player that's fixed Kyrie?
LeBron. So he ends up in LA, and Chris Paul gets stuck somewhere else in purgatory.
Well, what's the scenario of if he's a vet minimum guy that Chris Paul just doesn't ride it out and win a ship?
Maybe.
And he runs the second unit. He goes out there on the second unit with.
Oh, now you're talking Houston basketball, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Stop it. That wasn't a good plan. Remember, all y'all bashed on that shit. You guys got to quit flip-flopping.
I'm just thinking.
That's ridiculous.
Logically, when I'm thinking LeBron at this juncture in his career, I'm thinking, who has been his best friend for like the last 10 or 15 years?
Well,
that's looking to ride off into the sunset.
Tristan Thompson's been on every team LeBron is, and that's his perfect eye, man.
I just look at that bench and I'm like, God, he's just trying to hand guys rings at this point.
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty much
crazy.
it. Like Tracy McGrady joined the team this year. All right, let's Kyrie Irving for me. I know I'm a fan, but it wouldn't be crazy if Kyrie suits up in Houston. It wouldn't be crazy. Okay. I don't want him whatsoever, but it'd be the team that could pay him the most money. We need a point guard. That's like a true point guard, and Kyrie would fit that if we don't get scooped. Like that would be.
The thing is, and I think the only reason why LeBron has worked with him and no other franchise would, is because he treats Kyrie like Phil Jackson treated Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
He just says, you know what, Kyrie, you do your thing, man. Like, I love you like a brother. Like, I know what you bring to us come playoff time. And you do whatever you want for the next 6 or 7 months. We're going to figure out a way to win games. Like, the Lakers didn't give a crap about seeding this year. That's why they were the 7 seed. He'll say, do whatever you like. I need you locked in for 2.5 months. And Kyrie probably says, yes, LeBron, for sure.
Yep. He's a good Robin.
And nowhere else will do that. Because Houston, the expectation will be, Kyrie's been missing for 2 games. What the hell's happening? Does he not want to be here? Should we trade him?
Well, you say that, but we let Harden do a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah, but Harden's an MVP.
I'm glad you said that. He'll look good back in his Rocket Red.
You can have Harden.
Chris Middleton suits up for the blank. I actually adored this topic, and then you ruined it by calling it Dallas's team. Any other spots you like for Middleton?
Any other spots for Middleton? I do think that the potential is there with Harrison Barnes walking of maybe he goes to Sacramento.
Oh, I could see that. He'd be an upgrade for sure. Sacramento would love to.
Well, you dump him, and then your big 3 is Fox, maybe Monk, kind of is like their 3rd scoring option, and then Middleton's your 2. Sabonis. I forgot Sabonis. I was going through their rotation, and I'm like, I'm missing somebody because like Monk's clearly not there.
No way they were the 3 with just that guy.
I'm like, wait, they must be Golden State with Malik Monk?
Man, that team's good.
Yeah.
So Houston's one. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to throw that in there. I actually think with the cap space being freed, it wouldn't be crazy to see him as a Heat.
What about the Pacers?
So I thought about the Pacers. I just don't think they're flashy enough. It's just Milwaukee 2.0. Like, why would you go there?
He could have a bit bigger of a role in Indiana is the thing.
He could be a big role in New York.
Yeah, New York's not a terrible one.
Or, hold on. Portland.
Well, Portland needs to do something with that third pick.
Yeah, I agree. They don't need it.
What I said, I don't understand why the conversation of trading Damian Lillard is not on the table.
Oh man, Frank, I know you're trying to listen. Can't hear from the plane. Sorry, man. You have to catch a recording, but if you can get us, tune in. So I want to explore that because I definitely want to talk about when we're going to talk the Rockets in a minute and be their GM. But you're right. Like Scoot's going to be there at 3.
By the sounds of it, it is 1 is Victor, 2 is Brandon Miller.
That's what it sounds like. Scoot
which makes sense
3.
with how it fell, because I think if Charlotte was at 3, they would still prefer that it was Brandon Miller.
Right. But Portland still would never want Scoot even at 2. It'd be even a harder decision at that point.
Well, why is the thought process we have to trade the third pick instead of we should trade Damian Lillard, really cash in since we have a lot of young players, and just draft Scoot?
Because Damian Lillard is
loyal.
Is the only American so far that stayed loyal to his team besides Tim Duncan. And even then, Tim Duncan, people would say he's not American, but he's a territory kid, so yes, he is. So like, you can't do that. He is an American. So like that. This is the point. Like, you have this loyalty, and you have this need to keep him. So you get rid of the pick. But I mean, obviously, it's traded to Houston.
Could you not imagine the haul for Damian Lillard?
I know.
I would be calling up OKC right now.
Give me your picks.
Give me all your picks. You can run Lillard, Chet, and Shea.
And give me all your picks and David fucking Putney.
You know how much I hate that movie. But I know the reference. You know what? Funny show story. I got stuck in draft day TikTok on draft day.
Oh, that sucks.
And you know what it was? It was buddies of mine. We were hanging out the night before, and they were just like, "Oh, I got to watch draft day tomorrow." And then I wake up and I couldn't get out of it. Like, I'm yelling at my phone, "Stop showing me draft day videos." And then I just had to keep watching. Like, I want all my damn picks back. And I'm like, I'm over it. This is so stupid. Like, it's always Vontae Mack. I get it. Like,
it is always Vontae Mack.
It was always Vontae.
That was actually my little slogan underneath my draft day episode. Oh yeah, you were there. Let's talk about some things that are not so great in the fields. For those of you that have been watching, we've been pretty funny. It's been pretty light, but let's get into it. Dillon Brooks.
Wong Tigers.
Wow. Dwight Howard recruiting hard for his team for Dillon Brooks to come down. Any team take a chance on Dillon Brooks next year? Kenny, percentage.
I'll be honest. I hope Toronto does.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I actually have heard Ime Udoka said he would take Dillon Brooks on the Rockets.
But
so
look,
not crazy.
The whole talking smack through playoffs thing, if you're really going to let that get in the way of a guy that was like an all NBA defensive team guy and not keep him or try and sign him, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Why have we come down so hard on Dillon Brooks? Because he talked a little smack. Yes, he didn't go to the post-game press conference to back it up after and take the L. But think about it. Like, if this is a quality basketball player that can clearly make it in the league. Is he great on the offensive end? God, no. I would cut his shots by 4 or 5 every single game. But would I have him in as just a defensive guy? 100%.
Yeah, I love his demeanor as far as like the defensive mindset. He's a dog, right? But all bark, no bite when you can't support it with wins, and you don't challenge LeBron and think you're going to stay in this league while he's around. So,
but even if he didn't challenge LeBron, they weren't winning that series.
I agree. I picked him to lose. So
like everyone's going to act like, oh, he woke up LeBron. That's why they lost that series.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like this league is run by certain players and certain people, and LeBron's one of them right now, and you don't do that.
But he's not the first one to challenge LeBron. Lance Stevenson did it. Deshaun Stevenson did it.
Yeah, but none of them said he's nothing because he hasn't shown me anything. Like, nobody has said that.
And?
Think about that. Well, I'm just saying, think about that. If somebody said that to Michael Jordan's face, Michael Jordan would have been talking shit the whole time, would have gone off. LeBron did the same. They got the wins, right? But Michael Jordan would have made a point. LeBron just stays quiet. That's just his demeanor. Michael Jordan would have made a point and said, like, that's why he got lit up. He talked shit. Like, he would have said it to his face. So it bothers them. Dillon Brooks, who knows where he's going to play. He'll be good wherever he plays. Just He won't be featured. He's going to be quiet for a little while. Head coaches, we have a carousel of head coach firings. A little bit longer than I thought it was going to be for tonight, but Doc Rivers getting cut by Philly. Mike Budenholzer getting cut by Milwaukee. Nick Nurse out in Toronto. And Monty Williams, coach of the year, previous year, gone as well. These are a lot, Kenny. I mean, all of them underperformed this year. All of them have had runs the past 3 years. So kind of sucks. But of all of them, who lands on their feet first? And I don't need to know where, but where you think.
I think Nick Nurse is going to land on his feet relatively quickly. Budenholzer, before winning that title, was a known choker. Monty Williams, outside of that one really good run to the finals, like Monty's been like a good coach, but not great. Right. Doc Rivers hasn't done anything since 2008. So I think Nurse is the guy that people still think that he's a very, very good X's and O's coach. So that's why I think he'll land on his feet. Those other three are more player coaches, I think, than actual adjustment guys.
I think you're right. I think Nurse lands the only head coach job of the four of them for this next season.
I think one more will. But I think it's because there's a lot of vacancies out there.
I think Budenholzer ends up on a bench somewhere. I think he's going to be like a lead assistant.
He'll be Frank Vogel. He'll be just a...
Yeah, somewhere. He'll land somewhere.
Doc will get a head coaching job from someone.
You know what? With the Wemby pick and all this cap room that the Spurs have, he may end up back in San Antonio with Pop. Yeah. He lost Becky Hammond. She was on that team when they won the last championship, and him and Budenholzer was there. I would see it. I
just think that there's still a lot of bad coaches on benches as well. And as much as I don't like these guys, I wouldn't want them trying to coach my team to a championship. I still think that they'll find bench gigs. Like, it's a coaching carousel. It happens in every sport. They're all buddies. They're all friends.
We've talked a lot about the Spurs. We're not going to bring them up in the last segment. We're just going to talk Rockets basketball right after this commercial break. But before we go to our commercial break, our last topic of round one is going to be the feelings on Ja Morant. There's been mixed feelings everywhere about how this Ja Morant situation has kind of gone down. And I was kind of leaning one way most of the day until I started hearing some player arguments and some different analyst talk. And I started to understand the dilemma here. And for those of you that don't know, you could probably catch it on any social media outlet, any news story, but Ja Morant got caught flashing a gun around on an Instagram live feed. And so he's been under investigation now by the NBA for doing that in a gang-related fashion, according to what the report says. So, yeah. So if you're – Kenny, I'll start this segment off just because I know which way I want to kind of talk about it. But I have to lean with the fact that just having a gun is not illegal in America. And if you're going to take that principle, I have to agree with that stance. He was doing no crime. He was doing nothing illegal where he's at. We have no reason not to believe he doesn't have a license to carry. Like, there is no question he's doing anything wrong. Has he had other stipulations in the past? Has he gone through a series of investigations that have required other dealings with the NBA? Yes. Do we know if there's any backstory to that? No, we don't know. And there could have been deals under the table that we don't know about. According to ESPN analysts, there was no deals. So this is all just reactionary to this one circumstance, which I think is 100% bullshit. So I have to lean. That's my stance on it right now. As more comes out, I have to believe that this is a bad case of something much worse that's happening in America. But right now, I don't think there's any reason why Ja Morant should be suspended unless there is something else that comes out from a gang-related circumstance. And Kenny, I don't know how you feel about it.
I think it's just because of who it is.
It might be.
And I think it's because of very recent actions. And the league's concerned because they truly believe that Ja Morant is a top 5 player in the NBA for the next decade. At this juncture, like, if we're talking about in 10 years' time, who are we going to be talking about as established multi-time All-Stars, maybe multi-time champions, MVPs, whatever it is? You're looking at guys like Luka. You're looking at guys like Ja Morant. They were hopeful that it would be Zion, but his injury history hasn't helped. They're probably looking at guys like Wemby, potentially, see how his rookie year goes. And so, given that he's just recently had an issue where he got suspended and it was he checked into a facility very briefly, and then he was out and said that he was going to be better. And then this happens months afterward. I think that's why the league takes issue more. Like, if this was a LeBron James chilling in his backyard, flashes a gun, I think he gets fined. I think that it's LeBron, like, we shouldn't be sending that message. Like, kids look up to you.
It's the idol, right? It's the idolization.
It's the idolization of waving a gun around that. So I get that point. He hasn't committed a crime in the States. Canada, definitely different story.
So, I mean, there was rumors of a 50-game suspension.
I thought that if we want to talk fair suspension,
like what?
What did he get recently? He got 8 games recently, was it not?
Yeah, 8 games. 8 games because it was time served in 8 games, so I think it was a total of 13.
20?
But for what, Kenny? I guess my point is for what? Like, I understand the
message
fine.
that it's sending.
I understand the fine, then fine him. That shows, hey, kids, if you try to do this, you get fined millions of dollars.
I don't think that has the same effect. I think what they'll say is, well, he got suspended and then he was waving a gun around a couple months later, so that's fine. Like, it's fine to do something wrong, and then in a couple months you apologize, and then you do it again in a couple months, and nothing's going to happen. And I agree. I don't think there's no crime committed here. That there's nothing along those lines. But I think that it's the message that the league is trying to send, that they don't want, especially their stars, doing things like this.
I agree. I don't think he should be doing it. I think a fine would be sufficient. If it was me, a fine would be sufficient. But here's my comparison, and I'll just end it with here, and you don't have to agree or say anything after it. If I have to compare waving a gun on Instagram Live to domestic abuse and I get the same amount of games suspended, it's going to really start a different conversation.
But who are we referencing in that case?
I mean, at that point, I'm just referencing professional sports, because then I take it from a percentage.
NBA's actually done okay in this area, because Miles Bridges hasn't played since his issue last year.
That's true. That is true.
So they nipped that like right away. Like, that's not okay. I agree. NFL wise, like, what the hell are we doing here? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Professional sports usually
different league. I think
it's a 60% average. You get suspended. That's a professional sports average.
Even if it's 15, let's say it's a 15 gamer. You got 8, serve 13. Look, we can't have this happen again. Look, at the end of the day, the NBA doesn't want Ja off the court. They don't.
I know, but
they need to strike a balance of, we want Ja playing, but at the same time, we have to show that we don't have a tolerance for guys going out and portraying themselves in this way when you have millions of people, namely kids, following you on social media, seeing this sort of stuff.
Right. Again, I don't condone violence or gang activity or anything like that. What I'm saying is that
there wasn't a crime, and I agree.
All it was is that, now, is the fault in the fact that he didn't give a shit about being on Instagram Live and waving around like he was prideful? Yes, that's a problem. Like, yes, it wasn't like,
this is a broader conversation of who are you surrounding yourself with.
That's the bigger conversation. For
your boys are just whipping out their phone.
Right.
Like, come on.
That's the bigger issue. All right, guys, if you didn't know this, BCMG has a wonderful family. It's called Better Together. That was a slogan from 2022 all the way to today. And so I'm going to give you a little peek as to what all of our shows do together and why you should join BCMG today, right after this commercial break.
Happy Thursday, y'all. Happy Thursday.
I'm your host, Andrew Kahn. This is the Boomtown Pod.
Add into the Lab Pod is where you're watching today's stream.
Stuck him!
It is Blue Collar Game Day. I am your host.
I got a kill!
Welcome to episode 277 of the Official Butthole Podcast. Got it.
Beautiful.
Better together.
Better together.
We're better together.
Better together.
Better together.
BCMG's Better Together. If you have any interest of starting your show or being a part of our family, if you're a streamer, show, content creator, we take everybody. We'd love to have everybody a part of our group. Just go ahead and DM add into the Lab Pod anytime. Or if you just want to contact Kenny at his show, you can always do that there too. We are always part of bringing more and more talent to BCMG. Thank you guys so much for being supporters. We'd love for you to be a part of the family. All right, round 2 is just talking about us being the GM. We were going to talk about Spurs. I think we've talked about them quite a bit. We're going to talk Rockets right now because the crazy happened last night. I'm glad we weren't live. You would have seen a very depressed me. But the Rockets end up with the number 4 pick overall after going through the lottery draft process. Ping pong balls didn't fall perfectly for Houston, or did it, depending on how you look at it. I think if you don't get number 1 in this draft, you are pretty much just trying to get a player that matches what you need. A lot of talent at the top in this draft class. Some would say some of these players who in the top 4, 5, 6 would end up being number 1 overall the last 5, 6 years, except for Zion. So let's talk about how the Rockets night ended up, Kenny. They ended up with the 4 pick. They have the 20 pick from a couple of trades that they had. So they have the Clippers pick this year. So they have the 4 and the 20 in this year's draft. They have all of Brooklyn's future, who, again, as you know, have been demolished by the big 3. That was them. And so they also carry $65 million in cap space this offseason. They still have 11 players on the books. So the Rockets are playing with a lot of cheap players, young players with a lot of talent, and they can afford to bring in some stars. That's the analysis for Houston. You have the pick at 4. Let's talk about 1, 2, and 3 before I bring you on, Kenny. 1, obviously going Wemby. Nobody's saying San Antonio is not picking Wemby on this show. I won't allow it. 1 goes Wemby. 2 is Charlotte. I think we both had a consensus earlier in the show. We both think that's where Brandon Miller ends up, is number 2. They already have Ball there leading the charge. And so we don't think a point guard's needed in Charlotte. 3 is where it gets interesting. That's Portland. Portland has Dame, and they have Anthony Simons. I don't think they're going guard either, but Scoot Henderson should be the pick here. I'm going to ask you, do you believe if the Blazers make this pick, they pick Scoot?
I think they should.
But do they? Let's just say they can't get a trade. They don't trade Dame. Do they pick Scoot?
Yes. I think if they're smart, they pick Scoot.
Okay. See,
I think the drop off after top 3 is, I'm not going to say like it's the floor falls out, but it definitely goes from A+ prospects to me to B+.
B+, A- ceilings, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because Amen Thompson and Asar Thompson, probably the next 2 prospects.
The Thompson twins would be fine. Walker's probably
Jarris
okay.
Walker, yeah.
Taylor Hendricks is probably a good
Not a fan.
pick.
Yeah, he's probably all right.
I like Hendricks a lot, which, I mean, the Rockets at 4, I don't know. But I think that it's a big drop-off. So I don't know why you wouldn't take Scoot because you have Dame. Who's to say that the team doesn't struggle and then at the deadline, that's when Dame goes?
Okay.
But you're not going to draft Scoot just because you have a 30-plus-year-old Lillard? I don't know.
They also have Simons. For me, I feel if Portland can't get rid of the pick, they don't use it. I mean, like, they use it, but they're not using it on Scoot. That's my opinion. So I actually think Rockets at 4, it might be a blessing in disguise here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Scoot's there after
Scoot
top
falls.
3, then that's absolutely...
Yeah.
I mean, you're hopeful. You're a Rockets fan.
Yeah,
so
of course I am. Now, if you're Portland, and let's talk the route of Houston trading with Portland, what does it take to get Scoot at that point? If you're
like
Portland?
To move up 1 pick?
Yeah.
Probably 4 and 20.
Nothing else?
I don't know what else you want to move up 1 pick.
Well, I'm asking you, you're Portland. I'm Houston.
If I'm Portland, I'm asking for 1 young player and number 4. If I'm talking Rockets players, I mean, if you guys love Scoot, you're not going to give up Green. You're not going to give up Kevin Porter Jr. You're not going to give
can't
up
afford him anyways.
Not going to give up Jabari Parker or Jabari Smith.
Are you saying Eason and 4?
Yeah.
Shingun and 4?
No, Sengun. I don't think that should be on the table for the Rockets.
Sean Tate in 4.
I would go Eason in 4 or 20 and 4.
So 4 and 20 is enough for you.
Yeah. I mean, to trade back 1 pick, but I still get an opportunity to get probably the guy that I want, and then I'm also going to add a pick, or I'm going to add Eason, who's a nice role player. I don't know how you get more than that.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm glad you're logical, because I'm hearing all these crazy things of like first down the road, 3 first, all this crazy stuff. It's not even for Wemby; it's for Scoot. So I'm glad we're on the fence there. We're not on the fence there with that. We're actually talking tied game in Boston now. What a collapse to start off this half. Okay, so we're on the same page there. Now, if you're Houston, even with that trade, you still have $65 million in cap. You have Scoot, you have Kevin Porter Jr., you have Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason. If you trade to 4 and 20, of course. What are you doing in the offseason? We already talked about a lot of these unrestricted free agents. Are you still offering the max to Harden?
I wouldn't.
At that point, right? It's done. So what player is even...
I just think that Houston finally needs to just commit to adding what the Knicks did a number of years ago, where they just give 1 or 2 year deals to some vets and just actually start making these guys winners. They all put up empty stats. They're winning 20 games, 25 games. How about you win 30 next year?
Yeah.
30 wins, like, at the very least, you're still going to get a top pick. But
that's what Udoka is bringing, right? A winning culture.
Because they're not showing any improvement. And it's what OKC did this year was they still didn't have Chet, but they had some vets there that helped their guys get better. And I think that that's what you have to do. I think that this is a great summer to do that. There's a lot of these old guys that are going to be looking for contracts. Like, I don't think Mike Conley's is up. If it is, what's wrong with bringing in Mike Conley to be potentially the starter? Probably not. More likely the backup. But have a guy that's been in the league since 2008.
So I have a cool scenario for you, right? It's going to involve the 2 pick. Okay. 2
you
pick.
Want to move up to 2?
Let's just say we did that, right? Because Portland asked for too much. The 2 pick and Hayward for the 420 and Şengün.
I think it takes more than that.
A future Brooklyn first.
I think it takes 420 Eason and Şengün.
Oh, so not a future first.
420 Eason.
I honestly think
maybe
Eason's
a future
off the
pick
table.
if you're throwing in Hayward.
I honestly think Eason's off the table.
He should be, but
yeah, I think you, unless you're really that all in on Scoot and it's Scoot or bust.
But you know my thoughts on Houston, where I just don't think that any player should truly be untouchable at this juncture.
I agree. I just think Eason, he's
potential-wise, you got like 4 where you're like, yeah, we shouldn't trade these guys. But
yeah, we do.
I mean, if someone called tomorrow and was like, hey, we're going to give you a star player, but you have to give us 1 or 2 of these guys, I think you go, yeah, okay.
Well, that's why Middleton and Jaylen Brown being rumored, even Harden, is like super intriguing.
I mean, if it was Jaylen Brown, then yeah, I'm doing whatever I can to make that happen. And if he wants to be that guy, again, you make it Brown, you add a couple vets, and let's be honest, you could be a playoff team in the West next year with just adding Jaylen Brown and some vets.
Could be. The free agency list after the top 10 really kind of drop off quite a bit. So you're looking at getting guys at value at that point. So it's going to be really, does Houston sign a max player and a couple of role players with that $65 million to fill that roster out? And what pick do they end up with?
I would compare Houston to, it's like when you're learning to ride a bike and you have guys like that are 23 or 24 who just got their training wheels off trying to teach you how to ride a bike. Or you could go and get a kid that knows how to ride a BMX. You could go and get Jaylen Brown.
Right. No, I'm with you.
They're really bad.
Well, I appreciate you tolerating me and this Houston Rockets segment and all of you out there. I know you guys were all here for the Houston Rockets segment, so I appreciate that.
Well, we got to talk about the last segment.
Your Toronto Raptors. All right. Give me the Raptors take. How do you make them good again, Kenny?
Okay. We'll start with who's untouchable in Toronto right now.
Okay.
Who is it? Who do you think? Scotty?
Untouchable Scotty Barnes for sure.
Yep. Anyone else?
No.
Okay, so I'm glad that we're in agreement because Raptor fans seem to think that OG Anunoby's untouchable, which I think is ridiculous.
That's your best trade piece.
Okay, so here's what I do if I'm Toronto. I'm looking at Portland's pick at number 3. What does Portland want if they are not prepared to move on from Lillard? They want guys that can help them win right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but it starts with this summer where Van Vliet, you're not bringing him back.
Nope.
He's not going to sign that player option of like $22 million. He could go and get 4 years, $120 probably from somebody. You're going to let Gary Trent walk because he's $18 million player option. I think he'll probably test for a longer contract than just a play for one more year. So, to trade up to number 3, you give up OG Anunoby, you give up the 13th pick in the draft, and you give up Chris Boucher to give yourself some front court depth.
Okay.
Because Nurkic is hurt all the time for number 3.
Okay.
You maybe have to throw in one more young piece.
Or a future.
But if you're Toronto, you don't want to give up a future.
Okay.
Maybe you look at Precious Achua, let's say.
Okay.
To get number 3.
All right.
You draft Scoot Henderson at number 3. You get your point guard of the future. You build around Scoot, Barnes, and Siakam. You fill in the rest of the pieces around them, at least for now. And you let Scotty and Scoot come up together. And when Siakam's contract is up in a few years, you can decide from there whether you want to re-sign
Bronny
or get somebody else. Because at the end of the day, Toronto also has to keep this in mind. Next year, who's the team that has their pick if it falls outside of the top 6?
Mm-hmm.
It's the San Antonio Spurs. You want to be really bad next year if you're Toronto. You can't afford to lose that pick.
Yeah.
So what do you think? If it is, we're not bringing back these guys to just be the 9th best team in the East. We're just going to be bad. But at the same time, Siakam's going to play well. Barnes is going to play well. You're going to get Scoot his first year. You fill it in with kind of 1 to 2 year vet guys around the rest of them.
I actually like it a lot. The Scoot Scotty grow up is phenomenal. I think that would be fantastic, especially in the East.
Because you're not going to be good in the East for years.
Right.
Like Tatum, especially if Brown stays, Tatum and Brown are going to run the East. Giannis.
Yes. And if Harden were to stay, Philly would control the second best team. Milwaukee would be there. Celtics would be there. I mean, you're not going to be good for a while. You're not going to be. So what teams did in the West when the Warriors dominated in their prime. So They all tanked.
So you keep top 6 the following year because you're still bad. You maybe have to give up a pick later on, but then you can draft another guy in the top 5 next year. And then maybe that's your big 3 at that point. And if you're Toronto with everything that you've done over the last decade, what have you done really well? Player development. Trust your player development, that you're going to pick the right guys and that you're not going to sit in this purgatory that you've been sitting in since you won a title in 2019 and actually do it correctly. Do I think any of this is going to happen? No, I probably just wasted all your listeners' time by giving a logical move of how they're going to rebuild this thing.
Love it. For all y'all watching right now, you missed the best part, which was a Houston Rockets segment, but you got to hear the Toronto Raptors and how Kenny.
I care so much about the Raptors because the country deserves better. Like, I'm not even a fan. Like my team, like, we're in the West Finals. Like, we won a title in 2020. We could win another one this year. We've won like 6 in my lifetime.
So better knock on some wood.
So I'm in a good spot. I've won 6 regardless. We lose, we get swept, whatever. I got 6 titles as a fan. So
love it.
But Toronto deserves better. If you are going to do that stupid Jurassic Park, we are the North crap, then at least win games when you do it. They're doing Jurassic Park for a play-in game. Come on. You're better than that.
Love it. Thank you,
for
Kenny.
coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, guys, that is tonight's episode. If you're wondering when we're on again, it is off season for us as we wait for Baby Trey to show up. Next week is the week. Here is our sign off. We will be back June 22nd, larging and charging and looking for picks. That's right, looking for picks. That's right. We are going to hope that the Rockets have either traded up or that they're going to land Scoot in that draft. Very hopeful. Probably not happening, but very hopeful. We appreciate all y'all. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been so supportive. I've gotten messages about if Trey is here. We've gotten gifts. We appreciate all y'all. We appreciate all the love. Shout out to all of our sponsors of the show who have been so cooperative with the off season and lack of time being on the show. Taquito Express, always family. Just really appreciate y'all. Triple Double Basketball. And of course, Glitch Energy. Go use code BCMG at glitch.com. Get you 25% off and kicks back that percentage off back to the show. We love all y'all. Thank you guys so much. We'll give the update as soon as Baby Trey is here. You'll see that wonderful onesie and Rowdy Lovey. But before I go, Kenny is still live. You can catch him in the mornings. His daily show is phenomenal. I was there this morning. Kenny, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
At HedgePod on all social platforms. Posting a lot more over on YouTube. Even on days where I'm not doing full shows, going to have videos over there. Just giving out the picks for the day. You tuned in today, 4-0 day. We were profitable yesterday as well. So picks have been going well after a rough start to May, full disclosure. So we're getting back on track. We also did all of our PGA Championship picks as well. So definitely want to check those out for the golfing bets. But yeah, Ernest, it's always fun being on here. Obviously, I can't wait for you guys to have the arrival of your child. Thank God I don't have any of my own, but really happy for you guys and can't wait to see the pictures and everything that comes from that. And as always, it's fun being on. You
just wait, Kenny. Ernest Reeves Cotterill is going to be amazing, and we are
Ernesto Reeves.
Get
it right.
Cotterill.
It's not even Ernest. It's Ernesto.
Sorry, that's disrespectful. Ernesto Reeves Cotterill. Kenny, always a pleasure. Add Into That Pod is where you're watching tonight, where you can catch all of our great content. I am your host, Ernest Doc E. Silva, and again, just like my slogan says, why did I choose the Rockets? I have no idea. But we're going to write it, guys. We're going to write it. Thank you guys so much for being a part of tonight's show. Keep a lookout. We'll post this episode later on this week. Have a great month. I'll see you guys in about a month, and look for that announcement post. Thanks, y'all.